In this presentation, we're going to continue on exploring the vendor section, this time looking at the form of a pay bill. In other words, we have entered the bills in the past. Now we're going to go through the process of paying the bill. Time to engage with Sage 50 Cloud Accounting. Here we are in our Sage 50 practice file. We're in the demo company, that being the Bellwether Garden Supply. You should be able to follow along with the free demo version, although we're using the actual software here. We're down in the vendor and purchases section. So we're in the vendor and purchases section. Last time we took a look at the entering of the bills. Now we're on the second side of the equation, the second form in our typical flowchart, that being the paying of the bills. So the entering of the bills, we recall, increased the accounts payable, the liability, and the other side going either to an expense like a phone bill or something, or to inventory if it was something like a inventory purchase or something like that. Now we're going to be paying the bills. We have a few different options to pay the bill. We can go to the pay bill one at a time here. We can pay the multiple bills. So let's go ahead and take a look first at the pay bill. So we're going to go to the pay bill item. I'm going to maximize the screen here. And let's go through the process of the paying of the bill. I'm going to select our first vendor once again. So the vendor is already set up. As I do so, notice this bounced over from an apply to an expense to apply to an invoice, because we're using this form. This is basically a money out type of form. And this time we're applying it to a bill. Therefore, we want to be on this first tab so we can apply it to the bill that we got. Now notice it says apply to an invoice. That terminology between bills and invoices can be a little bit confusing. Usually we think about the invoice as the thing we send out that's going to be a bill to somebody else. And when we get it, we think of it kind of like an invoice. A bill to us, which is an invoice to the other person. So just, be aware of both sides of those transactions and, how that terminology could be a little confusing when you're going back and forth. Now we have our information here that's going to be the pay to the order of, which will be populated if we had already set up the bill in the system. I'm going to give a check or reference number. So I'll give a check or reference number. I'm going to put this up onto, let's make it into the 17th or let's make it like the 18th here. And then the dollar amount is not populated here. If I go down and check off one, let's check off the one that we have that we made last time, I believe. The $279.50, now we're going to check that off. So the amount that we need to pay after the discount is the $273.91. That then populating the amount of the dollar amount up top. We can pay with these different methods. So we have the check, other kind of methods that we can be paying with. It will then be coming out of our cash account here. So it's going to be coming out of the cash account. Transaction then decreasing, of course, the cash account. The other side decreasing the liability. There's no effect on like the income statement or inventory at this point. The effect on those accounts would have happened and has happened when we entered the bill. So let's go ahead and save that and see if it gives me any kind of errors or anything. Nope, it was okay with that one. It's okay. So I'm going to close this back out. We're going to go to our reports now. Let's go to the reporting drop down. We're going to take a look at those financial statement reports once again. We want to take a look at the balance sheet reports. Let's open up that old balance sheet report. I'm going to keep the defaults, keep it in this month. I'm not going to change those again because there's a lot of data. So we want to keep in the month that we're in here. And we want to take a look at that checking account. Let's go into the checking account and double click on the checking account. And if we scroll on down to the bottom of it, we should then see we entered this on, what was it, the 18th, I think we entered it. Yeah, there it is. The $273.91. If we double click on that and zoom into it, then we have the bill that we had. Now the other side is going to be going, it's going to be going to the accounts payable, not like an expense at this point in time, right? We had it in the payable, now we're paying off the payable. So if we go into the accounts payable down here in the liabilities section, we should see the other side. And I'm going to scroll on down. I think it was at the 18th we said. So there it is on the 18th. There's the other side of the transaction. Closing this back out. Obviously, this accounts payable would also be supported by the aging report or the payable by vendor type of reports as well, and be adjusted for that particular vendor who we had paid off. Going to close or minimize that back out. Going to minimize this back out. Notice we can also track the vendor information, so we can go to particular vendors such as our vendor over here and track the information of how much is owed. We could see a snapshot of our $75 that are currently still owed to this particular vendor. We can also go back in here and take a look at our history for this particular vendor. So here's going to be our history, and then we have the purchase information for the vendor. So I'm going to close this back out. And then we want to take, so obviously we can track our vendors in a couple different ways. We can set up the new vendor, view and edit vendors in this function as well. So if I wanted to take a look at view and editing vendors, we can open it in this section as well. And so I'm going to close this back out. Obviously we have this item at the right that's sorting by the vendor IDs, and you could change the sorting over here too. So I'm going to go down to the pay bills. Now we paid the one bill. You can also pay multiple bills. So I can go into the multiple bill payment and say that we want to pay multiple bills, let's say, and then I'm going to say okay just to jump over to the next screen. And then we could basically see a list of our bills that are outstanding. We can then check off the bills that we're going to pay, and possibly if we're going to pay them by check, this may be an easier method for us to then populate those pre-printed checks and put them into a printer for the printing of them. So those are the couple ways. I'm going to close this back out. You have invoices. Do you want to print these checks? No, I don't. So those are a couple ways that we can enter the enter bill. So those are the most or common two type of flow forms that you're going to be seeing within the vendor section. That's going to be it for now. Let's get out of here.